Hi everyone. I thought I would pop on and do a little video with one of my favorite palettes right now, and it's called the Flower Moon palette. I designed it with Deep Light, and actually the skincare company Evan Healy about a year ago for a giveaway that they were doing for the Flower Moon, and it's been about a year. And it's still one of my favorite palettes. And you know, this time of year, it's just really magical to paint little landscapes with it. I just wanted to show you how simple it is, right? When you have good colors that are a little bit unusual, that do beautiful things when water mixes with it, it's just so simple to paint a lovely painting. So I'm just taping down a piece of watercolor postcard. It's actually, that's not true. It's not watercolor postcard. It's just a postcard. It's by Crown Mill. Pure cotton postcards. You get 50. They're 300 GSM. They're really nice, and they make 2 tiny paintings or 1 larger painting. So I just taped it down to a watercolor pad. So I can use it that way. So this is the Flower Moon palette, and I'm gonna put I've been using it a lot today, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more water. Mine has been well loved. I actually replaced a couple of the colors in here already. It's just, and it's missing a color. I apologize about that, but anyways, and you can just see I use it. I use it an awful lot. So I'm going to use just kind of a dagger brush because I really like to keep it very loose. And when I start a new painting, you know, every now and then I clean off my lid. I use my lid as a mixing palette. It's just so easy. So I just put some water on there and scrub it around, and then lift it off with an old paper towel. So, you know, this time of year, I live surrounded by beautiful fields, and it's just a subject that I return to over and over again. I don't know, it's just my favorite. So that's usually what I paint, and I think I'm going to paint one sort of in the horizontal format and one in the vertical format. And this time of year, I like to start with this color. It's called Forget Me Not, and it's very special. So I don't need to put any other colors with it. It just makes the most beautiful sky. And I'm going to start by wetting the sky lightly. You know, this paper has a slight texture to it. So I don't saturate it, but I do put some water into it. And just kind of drop this beautiful soft sky blue called Forget Me Not. And what I love about this color is when you put lots of water into it, it kind of it does magical things. So once I have it down, I take just kind of a damp brush and kind of soften anywhere where I left the white of the paper, like that. And I don't plan my skies, right? I just, honestly, for these little landscapes, I just plop it down. And I can add a little bit more if I want to make it stronger in places. It's just really, really fun. And then there's this really special color. It's called Bat. And it's just like a dusty mauve. So I take some of that on my palette. I put a wet brush into it and just kind of mix it into my brush. And I go into the clouds, and I just need a little bit more water. And I just drop it into the bottom of the cloud shapes that have formed from this very just sort of haphazard sky. So you see, I'm just dropping it with my brush into the underside of the cloud, and it's just the most perfect cloud color. Absolutely love that color. The one color that's missing is peach. Let me see if I have it somewhere else. Hold on one second. It might be in another palette nearby. because it's such a good one. I don't know if I have it. I go through it a lot. Nope. I have cherry blossom here, but let me, hold on one second. Peach is really, really nice for clouds. And here's a peach. Okay. So this is my Shibui palette. I like this color a lot. And it's just sort of a milky, peachy pink. And I can take that with a lot of water into it, and I can drop it into a cloud, and it just, when it dries, it just gives the paper this pearly effect. Brings a lot of light. So you see, I'm not being very persnickety, right? I'm just putting the paint down, and it works the magic on its own. It's pretty great. So that's my sky. I'm pretty happy with that. So down here at the field, I like to start with this palette has zinc white in it. And I just kind of just put a stripe of zinc white, and then I take a little bit of gold ochre and I put a little stripe of that. And then I take this one, it's called, I think it's called rhubarb, and I swipe that across just kind of really loosely, and maybe even a little bit of solstice fern. And I am not doing much of anything special. I'm just swiping it across with this damp brush. All right. And I'm going to let those pigments just sort of settle for a minute and dry. I don't want to do too much to it. Okay. So let's start one going the other direction in a more portrait form. Let's see here. Okay, and if I've got any pooling, I can wipe my brush off really well and then just stick the tip of my brush in and wick some of that up if it's just too much, or pull it off to the side. But that looks pretty good, and you really want it wet so it kind of works its magic, right? I'm going to start over here, and the same thing. I'm going to put a little bit of water down on my sky, and I'm going to start with the forget-me-not again. And this time, I'm going to put some forget-me-not in. And I'm going to grab a little bit of the color called lavender and just sort of put a bunch of water into it and give a little drink of lavender to the sky. Okay, a little bit more like right in here. All right, and the same thing, I just take a damp brush and kind of push into it where I've left some white, just to soften everything and kind of bring it down. And again, with my bat, just diluting it on my brush to a nice milky light gray, and just dropping in some of this color to the undersides of my cloud shapes that just appeared from just scrubbing in the. And you really don't even have to mix it much. You just, just make sure you've mixed a lot of water into it, to begin with. And I just kind of dance it around the bottom edges of things. I don't do much at all. And if I want to, I can take some of that peach and drop it into a couple. I don't want to do too much, but a little bit here and there gives it, again, when it dries, this really pearly light. It's very pretty. All right, and then I'm gonna come down here and do the same thing. So you can see I just put a stripe of the zinc white. I put a stripe of the yellow ochre, maybe some of the rhubarb, and some of the solstice fern coming down at the bottom, and just let it sort of be layered like that. All right, I might even put a little bit more of the white and just let it do what it wants to do. Okay, so while that one sets, I'm going to come back to this one and just wick up a little bit of that paint. All right, and I'm going to mix up a tree color. So I'm going to take the Solstice Fern. I'm just going to put it on the palette with everything else because we're just going to do trees now. All right. I'm going to add in a little bit of Mother Earth Gray, and that's just going to deepen. All right. And then I'm going to take a little bit of Gold Ochre and put it in part of it. And I'm going to start with that lighter green, and I'm going to take the tip of my brush and just kind of dab in a tree line, just really softly, okay? And you have to pay attention because you don't want it to rush too much up into the sky. You don't want it to rush too much down into the field. All right, so once I've got that base down, I'm gonna rinse my brush and dry it off, and I'm just gonna keep my brush clean and control where it's spreading. Just soften, soften. We don't want it to like go too high up. By waiting a minute, we want it to feather, but we want to kind of control it. So I'm just pushing it back a little bit with my clean brush. I just keep wiping my brush off and cleaning it. So just let it do that for a second. All right, and then same down here. I don't want it to go too far down, but I want it to be soft, right? Then I'm going to take the color River and put a little bit of River in there. And that just cools it off and makes it a little bit darker. And I'm going to take that cooler, darker color and dab it in toward the bottom of my tree line, because that gives me a sense of dimension, right? And just makes it look really soft and dreamy and gives it depth. Really pretty. These colors are just so effortless. They're just magical. Okay. And I can also take some of that with the River and just dab it into the bottom here, just a little bit. Maybe a little bit here and there within the greener part of what I've done. All right. Now I'm going to still make sure that I'm not encroaching too much into the sky. We don't want that to happen. So you can take a clean brush and again, just keep it pushed back if you need to. Sometimes you don't need to. Sometimes you do. All right. All right. So while that one's settling, I'm going to do the same thing over here. Ooh, that is just gorgeous. So I'll start with my first green that I made. And again, I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of a different shape. Let it kind of come down here a little bit. And then maybe one sort of in the background. Okay. And then take my darker color if I need to add a little bit more River in there. And we could always add more, right? But I like to keep it pretty soft to begin with. A little bit more with the River. All right, rinse my brush, dry it off really well, and remember, control, right? We're gonna control the spread because we don't want it to take over. And it will. I mean, it can, for sure. But like this one over here, you see how it's rushing down. So I can just keep wiping my brush and then just sort of controlling it. And take a little bit more of that River and a little bit more Mother Earth Gray, so I get like a really dark color. And I just want to take that super dark color. Some in there. I'm not really thinking about it. I'm just, you know, dark comes forward, and so I'm using the dark in a forward way. So I'm just gonna dab some down here at the bottom with the tip of my brush. This is kind of dry, so even just a little bit. That's very wet, so I can move some of that aside and grab some more of that dark and just sort of dab it in the corner. So the closer things are to you, the darker they are. So that's why I put a little bit of dark down there. Lovely. All right. And I can soften that just a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna come back over here. So see, I can just kind of switch back and forth between the two palettes, and that's really nice. So I'm gonna rinse my brush and dry it off really well. And I'm gonna take some of that gold ochre that we used in the field and mix it with a tiny bit of the white. So I've got like a really pale yellow. And I'm just gonna kind of come in and just, oh, why do I got green on there. I don't want green on there at all. So come in here and then just, oh, I'm pulling green. Don't know why. Let's do that again. All right, yellow and white. So it's pretty light. Okay. And then with the tip of my brush, I'm just gonna drop in some of that lighter yellow toward the bottom of those trees. Just kind of dropping it in. And then I'm gonna just take some pure, just with the tip of my brush in the pure yellow ochre. And just every now and then, put a little mark in. Just to give it, I don't know, that Monet kind of look, you know, where just have some pretty colors. Oh, such a beautiful yellow, the gold ochre. Like that. Really lovely. And then just some plain solstice fern. And I can do the same in the foreground with just some green. Solstice ferns are really beautiful green. Just a little bit like that. There. And I can take a little bit more of the river and add just a tiny bit of the Mother Earth Gray to it, which just grays it out a tiny bit. I can go in and just add a few little touches of that darkest color. I don't want to do too much, but just a little bit here and there. Okay, and then I often end by looking at my sky and saying, do I want a little more blue? So I take a little bit of that forget-me-not and I put a lot of water into it on my brush. And then if I want to, I can come up here and I can just put like the tip of my brush and dance it around these cloud shapes, right? If I just want to make a little bit more of a statement, and then take just water on my brush and blend that up into the sky. If I just wanted to make one of those clouds like a little bit stronger, see how that did that? Pretty cool. So that one I call done. All right, I could do more, but I think just sometimes a little bit of strengthening your sky in one place is really effective. All right, now I'm going to go over to this one, and I'm going to do the same kind of thing. I've got that light yellow with made with the gold ochre and white, and I'm just going to come up here and add that in. And maybe a little bit more yellow. And then just maybe some pure yellow dancing around in there in a few places. just to give it, you want a little variation sometimes, you know, it's just, this dagger brush is really nice because I can just sort of dot it, you know, it really does cool stuff. And then I could take a little bit of the green, bring it down in here. And just a little bit down in here. Gives it a nice look. And even sometimes even a little bit more of the bright yellow. That gold ochre is just so beautiful. All right, if you just kind of dot it in here every now and then, it's very pretty. And you could even take some pure white, you know, and just add it in a couple places just to bring some light if you wanted to. And then I'll go back to that mix with the river and the Mother Earth gray. That's pretty dark. I don't want it to be that dark. Put a little yellow in it. And then maybe I've just got a little bit happening with that. If it needs the contrast, it might not, but it might. Contrast is good. Right? Gives you dimension. You could even take a little bit of that darker, cooler color and just put just a tiny touch down here in the foreground. Kind of nice. And then what do you think about the sky? Does it need a little emphasis somewhere? I don't know, maybe just a little bit. Take a little bit of that forget-me-not, put lots of water in it. And then maybe just kind of hug it around this cloud. And then just use water to soften. See how you can do that? And it almost like here you could, because this did bleed up into the sky a little bit, you could almost just enhance that a little bit there. Really, really is lovely. You don't want to do too much, but it's such an easy thing to do. I could even do some over here. Look at that. How gorgeous. All right, let's remove our tape. Oh, it was a little too wet there, but that's okay. That never really bothers me much. It's very pretty. So this is the Deep Deep Light Flower Moon palette. And just for now, there's that one. Beautiful. And this one. Very nice. Love them. So I just wanted to share that with you. I've been really enjoying it. And I also did some other paintings with it, with that palette that are also really lovely in all different ways. It's a very versatile palette. It's got a lot of gorgeous colors in it. I did do another video with that palette a while back. I taught you how to paint a flower moon, and I went over the colors more if you want to look back at the flower moon painting. But it is lovely. All right, everybody, thanks so much for being here. Take good care. Sorry about that abrupt ending. I felt like I ended abruptly. There was someone knocking at my door, so I felt like I had to close up quickly. I just wanted to cut these apart and just show you how lovely they are. Yeah, really fun. So if you try it and you're on social media, if you're on Instagram, you can tag me at Kateri_Ewing. I would love to see your efforts, and yeah, I hope you do. And you know, the other thing is you can continue to add more layers to these. You don't have to be finished here. And another thing that I sometimes like to do, and this is perfectly acceptable in watercolors, to use really good quality colored pencils. This is a really beautiful one by Caran d'Ache Luminance. It's called Spring Green, number 470, and it's just this really soft, kind of bright green yellow. And sometimes when things are dry, I just put like a skim coat on top of the green. I'm just very, very lightly going over it, and it just gives everything this beautiful haze. And I really, really love it. I love using good quality colored pencils over watercolor. See what I mean? It just sort of gives everything this lovely glow, and you want to make sure that your watercolor is dry before you do this. You can do all sorts of things with this, but with colored pencils and watercolor, they're a match made in heaven. But it just gives it this really pretty effect. And you can also, anywhere in your field that's a little bit light, you can add some. It's very, very pretty. So that's that. I hope you enjoy this. I also want to mention I have a brand new class starting. Well, I've got two actually. One is going to, I'm going to be sharing about it on Friday. It's a very special class, first in a series of Paint Like Masters. The first artist that we're going to be studying is Vincent van Gogh. So that is coming, and just keep an eye on social media and here for more announcements on Friday on how to sign up. And also, I have a class beginning this Sunday. It's called the Notebook Nest, and it's very special to me. I've worked really hard on it for months now. It's a 6-week class, but it's self-paced. I did it this way because all the lessons are finished, and I'll just unroll them 1 week at a time, because it's just better than kind of throwing it all at you at once, because there's a lot of videos, a lot of information. So it's self-paced. You have a year to complete the course, right? And I support the course every single weekday morning by answering your questions and cheering you on. There's a wonderful community forum. It's just very special. So if you are interested in that, I will leave a link to that course in the description box. All right. And I'll also link a sneak peek into the Van Gogh course in the description box also. And there is an early bird discount code for that one. So I can add that as well. But I'm not sharing it on social media until Friday. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you again soon. Take care.